Hi and welcome. I'm Jen and today we're going to be making some mini art using core watercolors, Ohuhu paint markers, and the lightwish watercolor paper, that tiny little mini square that I unboxed a couple videos ago. And we're going to be making some mini art with it, and I think this is going to be a lot of fun to do, and I suggest if you have some paper, cut it down into these little tiny squares. The current ones I have are 2.5 inch by 2.5 inch. Grab some watercolor or some markers or anything that you have, eye crayons, any crayons, and let's make some mini art. Today I'm going to be making two gemstones, one cabochon and one is just a diamond cut gemstone. And we're going to have some fun with layering paint and using acrylic markers over top. I did a couple different techniques for the base layers. This one, as you saw, I used the water brush, which is a Caran water brush, to soak the paper, and then I dropped in some of that core yellow over it, and then I blotted it out with a paper towel just to give it a bit more of an effect so it wasn't just a solid color. With the red, I also wetted it fully down, and I then wanted to have it like a blend where it goes from really dark and opaque to really light and just a kind of a light wash. And as you can see with the hot press paper, I really got a hard edge just like that with it. I think that's because it's hot press paper. If you know why I got that hard edge just like that, please comment down below. But I think it's because it's hot press, and that's just what hot press does. Where with cold press you have a bit more forgiving and it feathers out and doesn't give you any hard edges. But hey, I'm new to this, so let me know if that is right or not. I look forward to learning from everybody. And as you see here, I have the cabochon drawn, and then I'm drawing some round diamonds that I'm going to put around it. And for this one I wanted to do just 3 colors. I went for red, yellow, and blue. Nice complementary colors of one another, and then just drawing the darkest blue in for the shadow of the cabochon, and that's on the left because this is a translucent cabochon, so then the dark is on the left, and if it was a opaque one then the dark would be on the right. Yes, that's correct. I think I remember correctly. If not, I'll add an edit down below in the comments. But I believe so. I believe that's how it goes. And then I'm going over the whole thing with a medium color blue. And I went very lightly over it because I wasn't sure if my water-based acrylic markers were going to interact with the watercolor that I had put down. And later you will see when I do the yellow, yes, it does interact with one another because it did reactivate the red at the bottom where I have it really thickly coated onto the paper. It did reactivate that, so I had to take a lot of care, and I didn't want it to pill or anything, so that's also why I went very lightly over it. And here you see I'm layering acrylic on top of acrylic, again very light-handed. I don't want it to pill or do anything weird, so I'm just really taking care and going very lightly over it, trying to keep a minimum amount of layers and not have it pill or bubble or do anything strange like that. I really didn't want to deal with that, so I just went really lightly and hoped for the best. Now I'm adding in the white highlight over the shadow part because I couldn't wait. I should have waited and done the highlights all at once, but I couldn't wait, so I had to do this one already just so I knew what it was going to look like in the end. And it's just basically a white teardrop shape over the dark shadow, which was also a teardrop shape. The cabochons are pretty easy. This is how I learned to render them, and I think it turns out really neat and gives that 3D effect. With watercolors on paper you can get more of a blended effect, but this is a bit more cartoony or simple, more basic when I'm using the acrylic markers, and yet you still get a very nice effect with it. Now I'm filling in the yellow diamonds or yellow gemstones, trends, whatever you want to think they are, and I'm just with a really light yellow color filling in over that to create the base color. Since I wanted to keep it very light and airy, I didn't want a really dark yellow and make it look too childish with the red, yellow, and blue, so I just did a real light yellow for the base color. And as you can see, those bottom ones, that red is leaching through it because when I put down the marker, it reactivated the watercolor paint underneath and it soaked up. And in fact, it even got the tip of the marker dirty, which I had to wipe off on my paper towel just so that it wouldn't contaminate further on. And I then let those all dry. I did a second coating over them. Now I'm using a darker yellow so that you get that shadow on the insides of these stones, giving them also a bit of depth, but keeping it pretty simple and basic since they are fairly small. You don't want to add too much to them because it just overcomplicates it and it's totally unnecessary. They're small, they're just an accent piece to the main stone, which is that blue cabochon. And then because these are small stones, we still need to add in their little light refraction, bling bling, a little bit of glitz and glamour to them as well, which is just basically simply an offset T. Usually when you're doing a rendering like this, it's usually reserved for the really small stones, but because I'm using because I'm using paint markers, these are not as fine tipped as when you're using a brush. I did this to all of them because even though these are brush tipped, it is still very kind of blunt and a lot thicker than when you are doing it with like a normal paintbrush where you can get that really small fine painting brush where you can go in there with actual precision. And with this one I didn't feel I'd be able to accomplish that, so I just kept the highlights to a very simple T, offset T onto them. And then we go in, of course, with the shadow, which is always the light is coming from the top left corner. That is what I was taught, and I really like sticking to that because it keeps everything simple and you always know then where your shadow and where your light is coming from. You don't gotta think about it, you don't gotta guess, and you just go in and shadow's always on bottom right. And because these are acrylic markers, I did the light color first and then I went over it with the dark one so that you get that kind of crisp shadow on the edge. I could have used a darker gray, but I wanted to keep this little light and airy, so I just used a medium gray color and then a really light gray color for the shadow. I didn't want anything super heavy or super dark, which you can do, it just gives a whole other effect, and I did not want to do that with this first piece. And of course you gotta go around every single one of them, and that big stone is gonna have a shadow onto the yellow one, so then you add a little bit more to the left of it just to give that 3D appearance. Here you can see a close-up of it, and I was able to erase the underlying pencil from it, so it's a nice clean image once I was done. And now let's get onto the yellow one, and for the yellow one I'm just going to use a complementary color, which is going to be purple. Thought that would be quite fun just to do two with complementary colors. One is split complementary and this one is just plain complementary, which is yellow and purple. As you can also see in the top right, I have an orange, a green, a blue, and a purple one I did. Maybe at a later date I will also fill those ones in. I wasn't sure yet. I was happy with these two, and I really wanted to show you guys this technique so that you can also try it out. Maybe you need some little project to do, just to have 15-20 minutes to yourself and draw something, and this is pretty much that. Within 15 to 20 minutes you can do either one of these projects. I mean, if you're faster than I am, I was trying to be a little delicate and make good choices and not just rush it, so I took about 15 to 20 minutes per project. But I'm sure if you have a lot more experience, if you have an idea that you're really handy with, then you can probably even do it quicker. And okay, now we're starting on this purple diamond or amethyst with the brilliant cut on it, and I start with the darkest color first because I like to get the darks in first. That really helps me set the tone for how the gem is going to look, and if I mess up, then at least I've done that at the beginning. But since these are acrylic markers, it's pretty hard to mess up because they're acrylic markers, they're opaque. You can just go over the mistakes you make and correct them. And just like with the cabochon, light is coming from the top left, so you always have the darkest part in the top left, and then the lightest part is in the bottom right. because the light goes through the stone and refracts and it goes on quite a journey through the stone, hitting all the facets and gives you that sparkle and brilliance. And then here I'm filling in the next section with a medium purple. I find this always so calming and soothing just to fill in the center part first and that bottom right facet where it's going to be the darkest, and then I work my way out from that. And I leave the white part to the last, so you're going to be sealing that yellow bit there for quite a while, as well as the other facet that also ends up getting a white wash over it as well. And then I thought I'll already add some refraction lines in and give it a little something just so you can already start to see that depth. You can either do that at the beginning or you can wait to the end, but I really like to start to see it come alive, so I do it right away usually, just to really feel like I'm on the right path. And then I just choose facets and go around with either the medium purple or the dark purple to fill out this bottom right corner, leaving that last one for the light purple, because as I said, the light will go through and exit on the bottom right. So that's why you leave that one for a lighter version, and then you just work your way around whatever feels good, whatever you think you would like to see. It's kind of like dealer's choice what you want. I don't have a real set way for how I fill them in yet. I just kind of go with what I feel would look the nicest. That's what I go for. I'm just thinking about, okay, if the light is here, where would it come out? What would be brightest? Maybe it's not 100% correct, but I think what I end up with is a very nice, bright, sparkly purple gem. And as you see in the middle there, I'm just overlapping with some dark rays, some light rays, because I really want to give it this graphic look and really be over the top and lots of sparkle and like there's a lot of refracting and light going through it. And as you see, I layered some of the dark purple over the light purple, and I know it looks really crazy right now. I know, it looks like a total, like, what? That's not what it looks like, but trust me, once you add some more in and you fill in some more of it and you layer over the light with the dark again, it really just like is magic. It just brings it to life. You just gotta trust the process. And I usually, if I do one facet dark, then on the opposite side I do it also in a dark tone or the same tone, so you kind of get a bit of symmetry. I find that also helps to keep the stones looking realistic. I mean, I'm not going for realism here, but realistic looking, and I think that really helps a lot. And I also think maybe the yellow here as the background might be helping as well. It seems like the purple looks a little lighter than if it was on white paper maybe, and that it's really giving it like this other dimension by having some yellow base to it. And now as you see, I'm going in with the light purple, layering it over because some of that dark was a little too heavy-handed, a little too much on some of those facets. Again, it's just what your artistic eye sees and what you think will look good in the end. And again, it's a 2.5 inch by 2.5 inch little painting. If you don't like it, you rip off another page, you start again. It's really just that simple. Don't fret over it like, oh, this is not perfect. It's a small piece of paper. Really, you're doing no harm. All you're doing is practicing and learning, and that's the goal here, is to practice and to learn. And that's what I did as well. I just practiced my skills here on learning to draw these. And yes, it's not a perfect circle. I freehand drew it. That's fine. Not a problem. I mean, if you want to go perfect and spend another 20 minutes on it, half an hour, go for it. But that wasn't my goal. My goal was just to get something down on paper, get some art made, and just relax, forget about everything, and just draw and be absorbed in the whole process of making this one gem on this one little piece of paper and not spending too much time on it and just making a couple of them. Now, as you can see, I got some of the white in and it's already looking a lot better, but that white was just a little too much, so I went over it again with the light purple because you don't want to have too much in the bottom there, on that bottom facet that you're seeing through the table of the gemstone. So that calmed it down a little bit. And now you see those lines, they don't look so crazy when you've layered up another couple layers of the dark purple or the light purple. It just gives that kind of cool effect to it. And now I'm going to go over all of the lines that I initially drew with the white so that you get that total facet look to it. And I tried to be really careful and just skim the white over it because these are brush tip, and that tip really, any sort of pressure and you just all of a sudden got this really thick line. Now that I'm thinking about it, I should have used my white gel pens that I got in, but I was just in the zone and I was just using the acrylic markers, and I mean, it still turned out great. I'm not going to complain. Some of the lines are a little wobbly, but that's okay. It's not a perfect circle anyways. It's handmade, it's drawn on the spot, and that's just okay. I'm still learning, I'm still practicing, and that's what it's about, just to learn and practice. And the more I do it, the steadier the hand is, and I'll remember next time to use my gel pen, because then I know I will get finer and more distinct lines. I then added a white little highlight on the top there. I thought that would be fun, just to make it stick off the page a little bit more there, just to give it a little something. And then of course we got to add that shadow. Again, going in with that same light gray first, and then I add the dark gray on top of it. Now with alcohol markers, I do the opposite. I first lay down the dark and then I go over it with the light. But with the paint markers, I like going better from light from dark. Okay, and here we are, almost done. I then add in my 3 little bright white dots. I like to do 3. Some people do 1, some people do 2. I like to do 3. I like to think that's my thing and my style. So I'm going to stick to adding 3 white dots to the table of the diamond. And now I'm going to call this one done. What do you guys think? Which was your favorite? The yellow and purple or the red, yellow, and blue? Also, I want to thank my Patreons. Thank you guys for following me over there. I really appreciate it. And my Mealy Diamond subscribers, thank you so much. You make it possible for me to keep creating these videos for free here on YouTube. And to anybody here on YouTube, please, if you can subscribe, like, those are all free things you can do. Those all help my channel. And if you comment, that's even better, because that pushes it out to more people who can find my videos. I really appreciate it. And if you made it to the end, please comment down below which one was your favorite. And thanks for watching. And until the next time, guys, bye!